Now that Comic-Con is over, it is time to shift my focus to my gown for the Labyrinth Masquerade Ball. If you remember back to my summer sewing plans video, my idea was to use this red and black spiderweb fabric to make my gown, and to use the same Gertie pattern for the Landis bodice from her Patreon that I used for the Hellfire Gala gown. I'm just doing the different top. The Hellfire gown was strapless, and now I'm going to do the strappy version. The other thing was that is just the bodice pattern. I still had to figure out a skirt. And what I decided is that because I was kind of going for a little Dia de Muertos kind of vibe, that I wanted to do something very indicative of like that ballet folklorico style. So I decided to go ahead with a full-length double circle skirt. Luckily, Gertie released a double circle skirt that already coordinates with this bodice on her website, so I just have to download and print. So I didn't feel like printing out 100 million pieces of 8.5 by 11 and taping them all together. So I just got the pattern printed out on some A0 paper. There's a print shop by my work. I just emailed them the file and they printed it out. It still ended up on 4 pages. So this is a giant, giant pattern piece. The thing that I'm concerned about is that this was designed to be kind of like a knee length, mid-calf length skirt, and I want it to be a full floor length gown. So I am going to have to do some adjustments. I am kind of hopeful that it won't have to be too bad, because normally I have to take 5 inches off the length of these skirts to get them where I want to sit. So in this case, I should actually only need to add, a couple, inches at the bottom. So hopefully that'll go quick. Let's get that started. I did a really quick measurement, and my waist to the ground in heels plus seam allowances is about 42 inches. So I've just measured from my waistline to 42 inches, and I'm going to make notches all the way around. Okay, so I have one of my pattern pieces. I have folded it in half down the center line, and then I have extended all of the edges, and I have marked off my 42 inches all the way around. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of trim this in a circle, and then that way I should have my extended pattern piece. I decided I'm only doing this the one time. The pattern piece is a front and a back that you each cut out twice for 4 total pieces, but it's a double circle skirt, so all of the pieces are the same. So I'm not doing this on the second piece. I'm just going to cut this out and then use this piece 4 times over. All right, there we are. So now you can see, oh, let me come over this way. Okay, that's better. Okay, so now you can see I have the full length gown version of my pattern piece. I'm gonna go ahead and see how many of these I can cut out of my fabric. I'm not gonna stress about the bodice pieces. I will figure those out from the scraps, whatever that looks like. But right now, I'm gonna just see how much skirt I can get out. All right, so here is my finished pattern piece. I know it looks a little bit long, but remember there's gonna be a little seam allowance that ticks it up on the top, and then when I hem it at the bottom, it should be just perfect when I'm in my high heels. Okay, I'm having trouble getting this whole thing in frame because it is enormous. These are giant, giant pattern pieces. But you can see that even at its full length, I have like this whole area over here to work with. So that's where I'm just gonna cut all of my bodice pieces out of, any extras that I need. So I should be totally fine with that. I'm not gonna stress about that. I am a little bit stressed about whether or not I will have enough. I think I might have to do an emergency order for a few more yards of this fabric. Dude, let's see if you can kind of see. I have the pattern piece I just cut out on top of the rest of the fabric. I kind of scrunched it as far as I could over so I could save as much fabric. That is how much I have left. I haven't really measured it. I'm just going to cut out as many panels as I can and hope I have enough for all 4. Wish me luck. These pattern pieces were enormous. There was no way I was going to be able to fit these on my cutting table, so I had to lay them out on the floor, and this fabric and these pieces literally took up the entirety of my loft. Oh, you probably can't see for the red on red, but I had enough to get my fourth piece cut out with literally 3.5 inches to spare. So my mask is complete. Now the thing that I was thinking about is, obviously I talk a lot with my hands if you have seen me in any of my videos. So I don't necessarily want to have something in my hand the entire time. And I am planning to put pockets in my skirt. So I had this idea of like, well, what if I put my handle in here? But you see how it like flips and it's doing this thing? And I don't like that. If I was gonna have it, I would want it to like stay up. So what I'm gonna do is, when I put in my pocket, I'm going to put a little loop here at the top that's big enough to accommodate my handle. So when I put it in my pocket through the loop, it'll stay perfectly vertical, and then I can have my hands free and this won't be at risk of falling out. While I'm at it, I have another adjustment to do. Here is the back bodice piece that I used for the gown I made for the Hellfire Gala. So I already have my sway back adjustment marked in, that's fine. The yellow line is the original size. I knew already that it was going to require extra height in the back just to accommodate for my corset. So that's what this pink line is here. But this still wasn't quite big enough. And then the way that it kind of swooped down, I think showed too much. So I'm just gonna go ahead and straighten out this line, give it a little bit of extra space. And then that way I can, should be good to cover my corset for Labyrinth. All right, all of my pieces are cut. They just need to be pressed because they've been kind of tossed around a little bit. The problem with this bodice is that each piece needs to be cut out 6 times because it's actually a 3-layer bodice. The outside layer, the interfacing layer, and then the lining layer. So that's why there's so many pieces of fabric here. All right, so the bodice is done. I didn't really do a step-by-step of this because this is on Gertie's Patreon. So, you know, people pay $7-10 a month or whatever for that. And it seemed kind of messed up to just be showing it for free. But anyway, I did it. It is, if you can see on the inside, this is fully underlined. So there's my shiny fabric. And then I just used red cotton. And then I lined it also in red cotton, and then it's fully boned. So you see, it actually keeps its shape pretty well. So the next part is moving on to the skirt. The skirt is pretty straightforward. It's a double circle skirt. But the big thing that I did want to work on was putting those loops at the top of the pockets. You remember how we talked about that? So what I need to do is figure out the thickest part of this bone, so I know how big to make my loops. So it looks like this is probably the fattest part, and 2.5 inches. Yeah, like 2.5 inches is the fatty fat part of this. Okay, so plus seam allowances. I'm going to be sewing this during the pocket phase. So I'm gonna go ahead and make these, because I also wanna have some. So I need 2.5 plus a half plus a half for my 2 seam allowances, 3.5. And then I do want a little bit of ease, so that's 4. So I need to cut out a strip that's 4 inches long. And probably about, if I'm gonna sew it in half, an inch plus, so maybe an 1.5 inches, 2 inches wide. So maybe a 4x2 inch strip that I can fold in, sew into a little loop. And I'm gonna go ahead and cut that out real quick. So I've taken my little strips and I have sewn them along the long edge at a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then just a little bit at one of the short ends. And what I'm going to do is just trim the corners, because remember, I'm flipping this inside out and I don't want all that bulk in the corners, and then just trimming along the seam allowances. Then I'm going to just use my tube turners. I found the 3/8 inch one worked really well. If you don't have these, you can probably make do or just kind of feed it through yourself. I find that this makes it pretty simple. You take that end that's sewn off and that catches the pokey stick, and then you just kind of push it through the tube and it flips it right side out. And then once you have it flipped inside out, use the pokey stick part to just kind of really push the corners out, and then just give it a good press with the iron and you'll be all set. All right, so I've gone ahead and pressed these down so they're nice and flat. So these are ready to get inserted into the pockets. So it is pocket time. It's a little bit cumbersome with these giant skirts. It turns out that a floor length double circle skirt takes a lot of fabric, like an obscene amount of fabric. I know how to talk. All right, so basically I'm gonna just do one side at a time. If you've ever seen me do any other skirt, it's basically the same. I have figured out that I like to have my pockets 3 inches down from the waist. So this is right side up. So I'm going to find a right side piece that fits. I'm going to go down 3 inches from the top of the waist, and I'm going to just go ahead and pin this into place right here. Okay, so the only difference this time is that actually I'm going to scooch this down. That's just so it doesn't slide around. I have my little loopy thing. I'm going to just fold it in half. I'm going to just kind of double check that fits. And I am going to insert it, because remember, this is going to be, you know, a 5/8 seam allowance. So I want this just like 1 inch down from here. That should give it plenty of room. Oops, I should have trimmed my little extra threads first, but you get the idea. So it's going to kind of go right there. Make sure that everything is matching up. You see the ridge of it. And I just want to make sure that's 1 inch down. Yeah, in fact, I can scooch it up a little bit. So this should be right at the top of the pocket, but well out of the seam line. I'm going to go ahead and just pin that right there. I'm going to go ahead and do that on the other side so I have a coordinating piece, and then I'm going to just sew a little 1/2 inch seam allowance right here, and then that way when I open it up, this is like all one piece. All right, so now I have my flat pocket and I have this little floppy thing, but don't worry about it, because once I sew this together, this will fold neatly into the pocket and you won't even see it. Top half, bottom half. Just gonna line everything up nice and pretty, and then just pin this around. And if you've ever seen me do skirt pockets, it's the same thing. You basically just line them all up, and instead of sewing a straight side down the side of the skirt, you come here and you go and then back, and then you finish going down the side. And when you flip it right side out, you have your inset pocket. Then that will be the skirt finished, and I can attach it to the bodice. All right, zipper is inserted. So now really I just need to tack down this lining so it's nice and neat inside and it's finished. And then I have to hem it. I am gonna just do my bias tape method for hemming, so hopefully it should go pretty quick. It's after 11 o'clock and I'm tired. So, you know, technically best practice is you're supposed to hang this dress overnight before you hem it anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that and go to bed. Good night all. Good morning, dress. So it has been hanging all night, just to make sure that the hem doesn't do anything weird. And it doesn't really look like it did. I'm gonna lay it out just to be sure, but I think it'll be fine. Okay, this dress is super huge. The skirt is enormous. I can't get the whole thing in frame at all, but I did go around and it's even enough. Basically, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a good press and hem it. And then the only other thing left is going to be to embellish the top. So real quick, if you have never seen me do my bias tape hem, whenever you're hemming anything that has any kind of a curve to it, you got to ease it, and it just takes forever. I'm not about that life. So basically you take your bias tape, unroll it as much as possible, and then this is about 1/4 inch, so I just set it right at the edge with a 1/4 inch distance from the needle. And then I am on the right side of the fabric, so this is the top outside part, and I'm just going to go all the way around like so. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. This is literally going to take miles and miles of bias tape. I actually bought like this whole big thing on Amazon, so I could just do one continuous roll. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so there's the bias tape that I had. Oh, you can't really tell. Okay, so there's the bias tape that I had sewn to the top side, the right side of the fabric. So this is what it looks like from the back. There's the little seam. Flip that over, and then flip it over one more time. And look, it's nice and enclosed. Give this a little couple of stitches. And then on the other side, this is what it looks like. So you see it's already kind of naturally does that like little subtle gathering that you need when you have a circle skirt, and then it's completely finished on the inside. So super easy, no pinning required, no ironing required, plus the bias tape gives it a little bit of extra body. See, it's like kind of standing on its own. So this is my favorite method for doing any kind of skirt hem. All right, my dress is all hemmed. Look at so much skirt. I'm very excited to dance in this. The last couple of things that I just need to do are to put some embellishment on. So obviously I'm going to use my spiderweb lace as a veil, but what I do want to do is do a quick little, let me grab my roses, just a little accent along the little strappy parts with some roses, just to give it like an extra little bit. I think that'll look really pretty. I'm trying to decide if I want it to dangle a little bit off of the edge just to kind of give it a more jagged, spooky look, or if I want to keep it nice and tight and extended. So I'm going to play around with that a little bit. And then let me show you my little pocket loops. So obviously, right. So I have my mask, and I'm all set. And then, like I said, I have my little pocket loops. So when I'm tired of holding it, I can stick my mask in the loop down through the pocket, and it will stay upright. And I can have my hands free to swirl my skirt or drink my tea or whatever else that I need to do on Saturday night. So almost done, very excited. Finishing touches are all that's left. I went back and forth a lot on how to do this embellishment. What I ended up doing was I cut out a piece of this spiderweb lace that was about 7 inches wide, and I just did a really quick little running stitch on the inside. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with the shape. I figured I'd get it on and then I would change the shape up. But actually, I ended up really liking how the natural curve of this strap made it come down into like this point right here. So I think I'm gonna just keep it. There is this little overlappy part, but I think that kind of gives the vibe of that shagginess that I was looking for. And then of course, just a couple of little roses that I stitched on. So if you remember, I did make this fun little loop so that I could put my mask in my pocket and it wouldn't flop around. And I could be hands-free and dancing and doing whatever I need to do. But I have to tell you, gowns with pockets are my favorite. In this pocket, it's just filled with literally millions of like little spider rings that I'm gonna give out to people because, you know, spiders are good luck and it's nice. And then on this side, let's see what I got. I have a fan. I have my cards. This is my credit card, my ID, and my room key. I have blotting papers, and I have my makeup kit with my gorgeous Besame Spider compact and lipstick. So whatever happens tonight, I am ready and hands-free. The Labyrinth Masquerade Ball is held at the Biltmore Hotel in Los Angeles, and this is just a gorgeous place for this kind of thing. Not only is the architecture just beautiful for the backdrops, but I mean, like, this is where they used to hold the Academy Awards in the 1930s, but this is also where they would film a bunch of movies. So, like, this is the room where the Ghostbusters fought Slimer the first time. How cool is that? I love how my dress turned out. It was so much fun. It was huge and swishy and swirly and just the most fun to dance in. And this hotel is gorgeous. They took over pretty much the entire ground floor. Every single room was themed. Something else was going on. People were dressed to the nines. So I just wanted to leave you with a few clips so you can kind of get an idea of just how wild this thing is and how you feel like you need to really have eyes on both sides of your head to really get the full experience. This is definitely one of my favorite events of the year. In fact, I'm already planning my outfit for next year. I hope you enjoyed this little behind the scenes look at what it's like to attend the Labyrinth Masquerade Ball. Thanks for watching.